I want to talk about, because, we interviewed Hurt and Bad, who is a part of B-Rezell, and I just kind of wanted to get your point of view and your perspective about how you guys formed the group. I believe it was in Chicago, and how you guys made the hookup to Death Row back in the day.
Okay, well, I was already affiliated with Death Row. I had just left the group that I was in, R. Kelly and MGM, another group that I had formed, and that group had dismantled, so I was looking for my next venture. Drove to California with $60 in my pocket in my Honda Civic, and myself and my other group member, Sean Brooks, who was also in MGM. Mm-hmm. And we were, looking to start over. So, I was basically, sleeping in my car outside of studios, mm-hmm. Trying to get, a edge or just a lick of a bite of sound bite of something of somebody that was going in and out of the studio. And I knew the hottest studios. I knew Larrabee, I knew the Record Factory. Right. So I would park outside and I would sleep outside the studios in my car. So one morning I woke up and I saw a group of guys, and I saw these big Somalian type guys, and they were walking in and they were surrounded by a guy, and then I saw this Raiders cap, and I was like, wait a minute, that's Dr. Dre. So I've been in Larrabee plenty of times, so I knew that as soon as you walked through the door, the receptionist was right there. So I said, okay, well, let me time this correctly. And so the receptionist can think that I was with the entourage. Right. So I grabbed all my tapes and, like I said, we just won Natalie Cole's Big Break, won $100,000 on that. So I grabbed that tape and then I grabbed my cassette tapes, my demos of stuff I had produced and recorded. Mm-hmm. And I grabbed all that stuff in a hurry, kind of wiped my face off, and I just kind of jumped out the car and ran in, waited till the last guy walked in behind them. And then they were ascending up the steps. And I just started walking up the steps behind them, and it worked because I walked right past the receptionist and she didn't say anything. So I get to the top and, I don't get to the top. Let me take that back. Dr. Dre, before he gets to the top, he turns around and he looks at me and he goes, "Who are you?" And I was like, shitting on myself at that point. I don't know if I can say that, but that was just what it was. I was just like, oh man, damn, what am I gonna do right now? So I just told the truth. I was like, look, Dre, man, I snuck in here. I'm an artist. This is my background. I used to be with R. Kelly, and I'm looking for a new home, and I got my stuff, and I want to talk to you. And he looked at me for a minute and he was like, man, I respect your honesty. I got some business to take care of, but go upstairs, go to the kitchen, help yourself get something to eat, and then go to the green room, chill out, relax TV, watch TV, and when I finish, I'll come talk to you. So true to his word, that's exactly what he did, and needless to say, I went in the kitchen and pigged out because I was sleeping in my car. Okay. So, after he came, he talked to me. I showed him the videos of us on Big Break, and then I let him listen to some of my production. And he was like, "Man, I like what I see. I'm interested." He was like, "Where you staying?" And I was like, "Sleeping in the car." And he was like, "Oh man, we gotta take care of that." So that night, actually, I was staying in Malibu. Dre had a house in Malibu, and he was like, drive out to, gave me the directions, everything, drove out there. Nate Dogg was staying there. Nate Dogg was the only person staying there. Me and Nate Dogg ended up being roommates. And so he would call, Dre would call every once in a while, because we were trying to figure out exactly how we were going to put this together. and Dre would call the house and he would say, hey, be at the studio at such and such time. And I end up singing backgrounds on, songs like, Dre Day and, a couple other songs on the Chronic album and things
so
like
this
that,
This is like 91 as he was working on the Chronic, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Well, he had finished the Chronic, but he was like doing, edits and remixes and things like that. Okay. So he would call me, he would call us in, and just come in and we would sing when Snoop goes, ain't nothing but a G thing, baby, too low, that's so we're crazy, we were singing, different background parts like that, on different, edits of those songs. So I wound up getting on those songs and then he, one day in the studio, he was like, hey, I want to introduce you to, my business associate. And this is, he's like, I want to introduce you to Suge. And this was the first time I ever heard of Suge. And so I was like, okay, cool. So Suge came and me and Suge had a meeting in the kitchen of Larrabee. And, despite the, I know the rumors that everybody has and the perception that they have of Suge, what I met was a really nice guy. Yeah. He was an extremely nice guy. We talked about what we were going to do. And then he asked me, what do you want to do? So, I said, hey, I want to, I'm used to being in a group. I'm not really ready to go solo yet. I'm used to being in a group and I want to, and production is what I do. So I want to put a new group together and produce a new album. So he said, okay. And so Sean, who was a part of MGM, he really didn't want to be a part of that. Right. He didn't want to be a part of that death row scene. So I had to find new members, which takes us to the club called Heroes in Chicago on Michigan Avenue. Okay. And I heard there was a talent show that night. So I went to the talent show and I had already knew George Parker. George Parker is a member of B-Rezell. Okay. And George Parker was supposed to be a member of MGM after Rob left and we were, trying to figure out how we're going to put something new together or whatever. But that never panned out. So I remember George and I called up George and I was like, hey, George, look, I'm trying to put this new thing together. I got a couple of ties in California and I'm trying to put this thing together. So he was like, well, look, me and my guy are singing at Heroes tonight. It was a popular club on Chicago's, South, not so much the South Side, but South Loop, Michigan Avenue. So I went that night and they both came out. I was sitting in the audience and they both came out singing the craziest thing you ever heard in your life. They came out singing opera and the crowd was looking at them crazy and I was looking at them crazy like, what did George just bring me into? What is this? Yeah. And that was just how they got the crowd. And they went straight from that into an H-Town song. They had the DJ drop the beat and then they just tore the house down. And needless to say, they won a talent show. And I was like, that's it. And, and I have a knack for putting things together. I could, run a list down of people that I've worked with in this industry, but, we'll talk about that at a later date.
You discovered R. Kelly.
R. Kelly, Donnell Jones, The Brat, me and Teddy Riley. I've worked with a lot of people in this business. So, a knack for talent and spotting talent and nurturing talent is something that, is a part of my gift of what I do and contribute to, the music business and have for, the last 30 years. So, or almost 30 years, just about 30 years. But, soon as I saw it, I knew that was the magic. Just like the first time myself, Sean, Brooks, Vince Walker, and Robert Kelly all perform together. It's just a certain chemistry and a certain magic. we haven't performed together in over 30 years, but if we got on stage tomorrow, no one would ever know it because we have that chemistry. Same with B-Rezell. If me and B-Rezell got on stage tomorrow, we haven't performed in 20 years, but that magic would still be there. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I recognized that magic, and I said, that's it. And I was with one of my partners, and I told him, I was like, man, that's it right there. And Hurt 'em Bad is, he's not, in stature, he's not that tall. So, and his, at the time he had really bad acne. So my boy who I was with was like, are you insane? Are you crazy? You can't put him in the group. He doesn't even have to look. And I was like, listen, man, I'm not trying to hear none of that shit you're talking about. Did you hear the voice on him? I was like, this is Hollywood. That ain't nothing. A couple of facial peels and some makeup can't take care of. You know what I mean? That dude right there has a voice and he has talent. I saw the talent in him, not just vocally. I just saw it. I could see it in him. You know what I mean? Because like I said, that's just one of the gifts I had. So immediately I pulled him into the washroom. Immediately I pulled him into the washroom and I said, hey, we need to have a meeting right now. And he was like, he was looking at George like, who is this guy? And George was like, this is the guy I was telling you who was coming by. And so needless to say, he was very, hesitant, skeptical, like, yeah, man, I've heard it all before. People tell me what they're going to do. And I'm like, okay, well, you've heard it all before, but you haven't heard it from me. This is what I do. This is my background. This is where I come from, but it's not going to be easy. I come from an era of work rehearsing 12 hours a day. So it's not going to be an easy road. But if you are interested, then let's do it. So he was like, yeah, I'm interested. So I was like, cool. So we got together a couple of times just to make sure we gelled. And then after those couple of times, I called Suge and I told him, I said, hey, I got it. And he said, cool. And the next day I said, I need 3 airline tickets to LA. He said, all right, no problem. The next day, they Federal Express the airline tickets. And, I drove to Hurt 'em Bad's house and, I said, hey, come on outside. And he was like, what's up? And I was like, you still doubt me? And he was like, what you talking about? And I was like, you still down with doing this? And he was like, yeah, man, I heard all that before. And so then I pulled out the ticket and I gave it to him and he saw his name on it and he couldn't believe it. And then the next day a limo was in front of his house and we were all in the limo and we went to go pick him up and we were on our way to LA. And that is how we arrived in LA.
Right. Okay.
To start recording.
And you're already obligated to Death Row, or does it go?
No,
you have to
no, we're not.
Demo to show.
No, we're not already obligated. We should put us up in a fabulous hotel, and we treated us very very good, but we still had to perform for him. So because he wanted, me and Suge had a relationship, but he had never met Tyrone and George. So he wanted to, of course, meet them. So it was really late, Anybody listening to this and anybody that knows Suge knows if you have a meeting with Suge at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you may not end up having that meeting till 4 in the morning. So we, he told us that he would be over at the hotel. So we waited and we waited and we waited. And finally, in the middle of the night, he came and he came up to the room. I remember it like it was yesterday. He was eating a Subway sandwich and he was like, okay, let me see what you got. And so we sung a Temptation song. And I can just tell, I can tell in the look in his face, he knew what he had.
Yeah.
And so he said, it's a done deal. He looked at me and was like, it was a done deal. And I said, what does that mean? He was like, I'm signing y'all. And so then that's how we became the first R&B act on Death Row Records.
Okay. And so from then, how did it go from that to the first song that you guys actually released, which was on Murder Was the Case? Is that accurate?
No, Above the Rim was actually Above the Rim, yeah.
Right, Above the Rim, okay.
We were kind of like fishing in the pond and see who we were going to work with. Warren G wanted to work with us, but I think Suge kind of put a veto to that not because of Warren G's talents, because Warren G is phenomenal, but because I think it had something to do with just because Warren G wasn't on Death Row and he was on Def Jam at the time. You know what I mean? So he kind of and Warren G really wanted to work with us, and we really wanted to work with Warren G, but it never came to play because, like I said, I think it had something to do with because he was on Def Jam. So we ended up going to Atlanta to work with Dallas Austin.
Right.
And we cut a song with Dallas Austin called Video Ho.
Okay.
And it was the track was just like phenomenal. The track actually ended up on Michael Jackson's album.
Okay.
But of course they tweaked it or whatever, but the track actually ended up on Michael Jackson's album. But it was actually a B-Rezell track that Dallas recorded on B-Rezell. And it ended up on Michael Jackson's History album, if I'm not mistaken. So things didn't work out with Dallas and Suge. I don't know the insides of that, but we never end up, getting the track. I'd like to have the track. I haven't heard it since then, but that didn't happen. So Suge was like, okay, well, I'm managing Devontae right now. I'm working with Devontae. You guys, how you guys feel about going to New York to work with Devontae? And, Jodeci was, some of the songs that we would, sing as a group. So we were like, of course, absolutely. Do we want to go work with Devontae? That's like a no-brainer.
Right.
And
Jodeci and all that was so big at the time that
exactly
you would come through. Yeah.
Exactly. So we went to New York. We went to the Hit Factory. We stayed in New York for about 2 weeks, and we were just going to the studio. And just one night we were in the studio, and this is when Devontae and Timberland were working together. And I just remember one night we were in there, and Missy Elliott was there, but this was before Missy Elliott was Missy Elliott. Like nobody knew who Missy Elliott was.
Right.
And so she was just kind of hanging around and, wanting to, write on people's stuff. And this, is a perfect example of, you never know who someone is, and you never know where they're going to turn out in life. Because Timberland started working on this beat and this bass line, which was like, mind blowing. And, the group. Dun, 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 boom, boom, boom. And he was working on this bass line. He was just, putting it together and just doing his thing and just mastering it, getting it right. And so as he started working on it, we started hearing stuff. So me and Tyrone and George, we got together and we just started, writing, hey, and we started figuring out what we were going to write about. And I already had a vision of where I wanted the group to go, because I wanted to do sex music, because I wanted to do I'd always been doing sex music, and nobody was doing sex music, and everybody was telling me that I couldn't do sex music. I mean, everybody that you can think of was telling me I couldn't do. So you can't say fuck on a record. You can't say pussy on a record. You can't say this on a record. And I'm like, why not? I'm like, this is where music is going. And lo and behold, to this day, that is where music is. But back then, everybody was telling me what I could not do. And if everybody is going, right, I'm going left because I don't like to do what everybody else is doing. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, we can. But me being on death row now I had that avenue to really let that kind of music out because Suge was not afraid to put that kind of music out.
Yeah. So
we started talking about, well, what do we like to do? And we all smoked weed. So we started talking, and we just out of conversation, and we just all started talking, and it was like, if you're smelling his smoke, it's just me. Matter of fact, I think we were smoking weed as we were doing it. And so, and then it just, it tumbleweeded from there. And the reason and going back a little bit, the reason I say you never know what people are going to who people are and what they're going to turn into. Missy Elliott kept coming over to us, and she kept saying, I got something for you guys. I got something for you guys. And we kept going, oh, we cool. We write our own stuff. We appreciate it. So she came over like 3 times, right? Like, she came over a second time saying, no, I'm telling you, I got something dope for you guys. And like I said, she was not Missy Elliott. We didn't know who she was. And we were like, no, we're okay. We appreciate it. And, we were being nice about it. But Hurt 'em Bad, who is really funny. I mean, you don't even know Hurt 'em Bad is hilarious. So, but you can only push too many of Hurt 'em Bad's buttons before he snaps, right? Mm-hmm. So the third time Missy came over, Hurt 'em Bad was like, look, I done told you we write our own shit. So we good. And so as I look back at that, 21 years later, I'm like, shit, maybe we should listen to what Missy had.
Did she take offense when you said that, or was she just like, all right?
No, she didn't. She didn't take offense. She didn't take offense. She was really cool about it, and she was like, okay. I was just trying to, I heard something and I had something, but I mean, he didn't really say it. He said it in a mean kind of funny way. You know what I mean? But like I said, it was a mean funny way.
Yeah.
But again, you never know whose toes you're standing on. You understand what I'm saying? And this business is about relationships. A producer that I don't know if you're familiar with, but he's like my big brother's name is Daryl Duncan. He taught me that years ago, back in the late 80s. This business is about relationship, never burn relationships. So I always remember that. That's why when she kept coming over, I was like really nice to her, like, hey, no, we're good.
Right.
But she like I said, she took it and she wasn't upset about it. She didn't have any hard feelings about it. She probably doesn't even remember it, or maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. I don't know. Right. But that's how Blow It Away came about.
Okay. So you guys, you do the song and you do a couple of different songs and you send the tape back to Suge, or how did that song get selected for the soundtrack?
We did that song and everybody knew that was it. I mean, It was like, that's it. Right. We didn't have to record another one. Everybody knew that was it. That's the song that's going on the Above the Rim soundtrack. Devontae, like I said, Timberland was working on the bass line and the drums, and then Devontae came and put this like sweet music on top of it, and it just came out, to be what it is. And like I said, people are still listening to it to this day. So And Suge heard it, and everybody at Death Row heard it, and they were like, "That's it. That's the one."
Okay. And at the time, you know, you mentioned you guys were the first R&B group on Death Row. Who
Yes.
came after you guys? Because I know there was like Sean Barney Rubble and Danny Boy and, you know, some other. So they weren't groups, but they were R&B artists. But at the time that you guys
Right.
signed, were you guys the first overall R&B act on the label, or were you just like the first group as opposed to solo artists?
Well, I think we were the first R&B act on Death Row. Like Danny Boy, he's from Chicago, like we are, but Danny Boy
Right.
didn't come. He didn't come until after, you know, we were there.
Yeah.
Barney, who is my boy, you know, Barney is really cool. Barney came. I can't, you know what? Because I just start seeing Barney, I can't make a pinpoint of when Barney actually got there. So
Right.
Barney could have been there before us, but when I was there, and like when we would be at Dre's home at parties and things like that, it was just really the Dog Pound, Nate Dogg, you know, a lot of people from the industry. But as far as Death Row goes, it was like a tight knit circle, and it was Dre, you know, the you know, the usual suspects.
Right.
And
Was there any
I don't
drama
remember.
that you witnessed right at the beginning? You know how there's always, you know, the rumors
At the
and
beginning?
about, you know, beat downs and whatnot. Yeah.
Not at the beginning.
Okay.
Not at the beginning. The
And that was
beginning
before
was
Snoop's album, right? So before it really, really blew up all the
no.
way.
When I was there, before I brought Hurt 'em Bad and George Parker in, who we call
Right.
GP, that was before Snoop's album. But when I brought Hurt and GP in, Snoop's album was already out.
Okay. So that was around 93, 94-ish on that time?
Around 93. End of 92,
92.
going into 93, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And so we eventually ended up going on tour with Snoop and opening up for Snoop.
Okay.
And but half of our album was done. And we spent a lot of time. I mean, we lived at the Lamontrose for almost a year, and we were like not doing anything. And so how we started working on the B-Rezell album is we had done Blow It Away. We had worked with Dallas, and we were just kind of stagnant for a minute. So everybody was getting kind of homesick. But so myself, I decided to go home for a weekend, and George decided to go with me. Hurt decided to stay for the weekend, and because I was just going home for a weekend.
Yeah.
And so George decided to go with me, and I left on a midnight flight from Los Angeles, April 20th, 1994. Actually, I left April 19th because I left on a midnight flight, and I arrived in Chicago April 20th at 5-something in the morning. Limo picked me up from the airport because, like I said, despite the rumors that you hear, Suge really treated everybody on Death Row like royalty. You know, he took care of everybody. And so limo picked me up from the airport. I was on my way to take George home. And then I was on my way back downtown because I had a suite booked downtown. And I really went home just to party, be honest with you. And so on the way, I'll shorten up this story. On the way to George's house, my limo driver gets into a head-on collision with a Blazer. And I am the only one hurt. My foot my right foot twisted all the way around backwards, and I mean all the way around. My heel was where my toes go. My toes where my heel go. I broke my foot. I broke my leg at the tibia, and so I woke up in the hospital. And the whole time I'm hollering at the ambulance people like, hey, look, I can't lose my leg. I'm getting ready to go on tour. I got to dance. I got to do this. I got to do that. I got an album to record. And luckily I had a great doctor, Dr. Carlton West. He saved my leg. But I was in a wheelchair.
Mm.
So, and I got a lot of love from Death Row. They sent me flowers and get well cards and all that kind of stuff. And Sharitha Knight, who was Suge's wife, she was our manager at the time. I forgot to mention that. She was our manager at the time. So, she basically looked out for us. She sensed things, like I said, she sent get well stuff and all that kind of stuff. And she really made sure that we were taken care of as a group.
Right.
So, now I'm in the hospital, and I'm in the hospital for a while, and I get discharged. And I'm staying downtown Chicago. I'm staying directly around the corner from the studio. And I'm supposed to be going to physical therapy every day. But instead of going to physical therapy every day, I literally rolled my wheelchair around the corner and down the street to the studio and called Suge and told him I needed to start working on this album. And I started working on the album from the studio. And immediately, that's where I recorded. I think the first song I recorded, the first track I laid was Horny. And then the second track I laid was I Wanna Fuck You. And then it just went on from there. And I had LT Hutton in the studio with me because he, was, I don't know if you know who LT is, but he's, okay, so LT Hutton was with me, because he was just like trying to find his way in the game. And he just was like, hey, can I come hang out with you? Can I come hang out with the studio with you? And I was like, sure. Brought him to the studio with me. And he was my boy. He was my guy. I couldn't walk. So he basically, was, looking out for me and taking care of me, doing the things that I couldn't do. And we just started, working on stuff. And, he was kind of fresh in the game. And, so myself and Kevin Lewis, because Suge called me up and asked me, do you know Kevin Lewis? And I'm like, yeah, I know Kevin Lewis. Our families grew up 3 blocks from each other. Kevin Lewis is Ramsey Lewis's son. May he rest in peace. He passed away last year in October. Right. But Kevin, Suge called me up and said, hey, do you know Kevin? And I said, of course I know Kevin. When we were R. Kelly and MGM, that's one of the first people we went in the studio with, because Kevin did commercials. He was in advertisement, and he used to have us come in and sing backgrounds and do advertisement. Do backgrounds for commercial advertising. So yeah, I know Kevin, and our families grew up together. We lived 4 blocks from each other. So he was like, do you want to work with him? And I was like, I don't have a problem with working with Kevin, because Kevin is excellent at knowing sounds and making songs sonically correct. But as far as soul and as far as the songs and the writing, I have to be in control of that, because Kevin really didn't have that kind of soul. He didn't come, he come from a jazz background. And like I said, he was doing commercials, but the kind of funk that I was trying to do, that's not what he was into. That's not what he did. But I knew he could sonically make it sound phenomenal. So that's what we did. We, myself, Kevin, and like I said, I had LT with me, and Tyrone Georgia went back to California, and Tyrone was in California. So I was doing the tracks, and I would lay the hooks and the ideas, and then I would send them to Hurt, and then Hurt would start writing on them. And I remember, and when I first sent them to him, and Hurt said to me, he said, "Man, I can't write songs." He was like, I can write a rap, but I don't write songs." And I was like, "Hurt, if you can write a rap, you can write a song." And he was like, "Okay, I give it a try." And he gave it a try, and he's never looked back since.
Yeah.
So a lot of people tell me, a lot of people ask me, you know, or they don't ask me, they tell me that you discovered Hurt 'em Bad. And I even make the statement sometimes that I discovered R. Kelly, which this is not an accurate statement, because Hurt 'em Bad discovered Hurt 'em Bad, and R. Kelly discovered R. Kelly. But what Marc McWilliams did was, I gave Hurt 'em Bad a platform for the world to know Hurt 'em Bad. I gave R. Kelly a platform for the world to know R. Kelly. That's what I did, because I discovered what they discovered within themselves.
You just saw the potential that they had before they even saw it in some cases?
Something like that. Something like that. More so with Hurt 'em Bad, Robert always knew what he had.
Right.
Because like I said, Robert has always had an ego. And he's always been confident in who he was. He just did not have the platform, and that's basically it. He didn't have the platform.
Okay.
So I provided that platform. I provided that knowledge and that platform. So, getting back to B-Rezell, I started recording the album. I would send the tracks to Hurt, and before long, I was like, "Look, you got to get on a plane. You got to come here. We got to start recording some of this stuff." So the first song we dropped was Horny, and it was like magic, and then everything else from there was just like magic, and we just started dropping songs every single night. We had the studio on lockdown, and the group was having its issues, not per se me and Hurt 'em Bad, but me and Hurt 'em Bad were more so having issues with GP, and I don't want to get into that, but you know, it just, George, he wasn't showing up at the studio a lot, so it was just basically me and Hurt almost recording the whole album ourselves. And that's not to say George did not contribute, because he did. He contributed a great deal. So it just got to the point where Suge said, "Hey, I want this project moved to LA. You all are about 14, 15 songs in. I want the project moved to LA. We moved that project back to LA, started working at Can-Am Studios, and that's basically where we started finishing up the project."
Okay. And was it when you guys went back then that you saw drama, or that wasn't until later?
Oh, no. That's when we started seeing drama.
Okay.
That's when we got back. That's when we started seeing drama, because, like I said, Suge had built this reputation up for himself, and I really felt like he had to live up to this reputation. And it wasn't so much drama with us, because generally, I really, I truly, to this day, I believe, Suge really liked us, you know what I mean, as a group, and as individuals. But when we got to Death Row, we had our own flair, and I guess I should use the word swag, because that's what everybody's using now. We had our own, swag, and people weren't really we kept to ourselves most of the time, and people weren't really liking that. I remember the first time I introduced Hurt 'em Bad to Tupac, and we were standing at the little Montrose, and I was like, "Hey, listen," Tupac was on his balcony with him and his boys, and they were smoking. They were smoking some blunts or whatever, and Hurt didn't have any weed, and he wanted some. So he was like, "I'm gonna go knock on Pac's door," and I was like, "Don't do that." And he was like, "No, man, I'm gonna go knock on his door. I already met him. I'm gonna go knock on his door." And I was like, "Hurt, don't do that." And he did it anyway. And Tupac answered the door, and he was like, "Man, I don't know you. Don't be. You could be anybody. Don't be knocking on my door asking me for no weed. Hell no, I ain't got no weed." I mean, and he came back to the room, and of course I was crying, laughing.
Yeah.
But so we went from just being around everyone to going to the studio every day, and I was assigned producer and artist on the label, so I had to be at the studio every single morning because we had shifts, morning shift or night shift. And the Daz, he had the morning shift too. He was a morning person, so I would see Daz every morning, and me and Daz are really cool. And Daz always showed me a lot of love, and he would be in Studio A, I'd be in Studio B on day shift. So, and we just, myself, Kevin, we just started recording the B-Rezell album. The B-Rezell album was set to be shipped triple platinum. So I found out years later.
At this time, was it still the three members, or was it down to just you and Hurt 'em Bad at this time?
Oh no. To the day it ended, it was all three members. It was all three members. But so you asked me if I started seeing drama. Yeah, I started seeing drama. I was working at the studio. I would have people, and coming into my sessions that I had no idea who they were. And they would just come in there listening. And I'm like, I found myself, having put, two different hats on. And it's like, okay, I'm here to make music. I'm not here to gang bang. I'm not here to to be on those street stuff. I'm here to make music. And I found myself having to switch hats all the time. Like, hey, why are you in my session? Who the hell are you? Get out my session.
Yeah.
So it became a very stressful environment, Kevin, he started changing. He started becoming, I don't want to speak bad on the dead, but I also want to speak the truth at the same time. But, he started becoming Suge's like little flunky, and he was, everybody just started turning. Danny Boy started turning. It was, and then it became like this Chicago versus LA kind of thing at Death Row. But the people from Chicago were, with the exception of the female group Fusky, and Stacy Smalley, who is singing on the female vocals on basically All Eyes on Me, and most of Tupac's songs from that era. And a lot of people don't know her name because she doesn't get the credit. Some other girl gets the credit, and I can't think of her name right now. You probably can. But those vocals are really done by a female from Chicago who was in a group called Fusky, and her name is Stacy Smalley. She did all those vocals.
Okay.
And she arrived with the crew with Danny Boy. So Yeah. Do we see drama? We saw a lot of drama. You know, do we see people that walked on the carpet and stepped on the Death Row logo and got violated? Yeah. None of that kind of stuff really happened to us.
Right.
But I'm sure you're wondering why the group broke up.
Of course. I mean, I think a lot of people are wondering why the group broke up.
Well, a lot of people blame me for the group breaking up.
Okay.
Like I said, when we got there, people were, I don't know if you want to call it jealousy. I don't know what you want to call it. But we had our own swag. And people that were already at Death Row would kind of look at us like, who do they think they are? You know what I mean? And then on top of that, we had really good music. And we didn't dress like they dressed. We were totally different. Everything about us was different. And I think they thought we wanted their women. And then a lot of times their women wanted us. So they would come to us. And not there, and I'm not, and don't get me wrong, let's not get this twisted because I don't want anything to be misconstrued. I'm not talking about their personal girlfriends. I'm talking about groupies and things like that. So, you know, egos start forming into play and different things like that. But like I said, Sharitha was our manager. And I never spoke about this before, and this is like the first time I'm ever speaking about it. People started spreading rumors, and these are exactly what they are. They are rumors because it's so far from the truth, it's ridiculous. Because I solicited Sharitha. Because I thought it would be a good idea because I was looking at what was going on. I was like, okay, Sharitha's managing Rage, Sharitha's managing Joelle, she's managing Snoop, she's managing everybody that's practically at Death Row. So as a chess move, I'm thinking, hey, that needs to be our manager because for one, she's Suge's wife, and for two, you know, she already is managing everybody at Death Row. So, and then doing my research and talking to different people about her, I found out that she was fair. Even though Suge was her wife, I found out she was fair, and she fought for people, even against Suge. She fought for people.
Yeah.
So, but she was always just like a sister to us. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She was like a sister to us. But by me being the leader of the group, most of the business was done between myself and Sharitha. So, when she started fighting for us, and then it was like, oh, B-Rezell is opening up for Snoop on tour. How did they get that spot? Sharitha got us that spot.
Right.
They're new. How did they get that spot?
From other artists on the label, right? Like, why are they opening? Why are
exactly?
Okay.
Exactly. So it's like, why do they have that spot? What it is? So then you know what comes after that, right?
Just the hating.
Huh?
Just the hating and the rumors began.
Oh no, not the hating. Mark must be fucking Sharitha. And I don't know if I can say that, but
you say whatever. You say whatever you want.
Okay. Yeah. So that rumor started spreading around. Mark must be fucking Sharitha. So they started spreading that rumor around the whole Death Row camp. So of course that rumor gets back to Suge.
Yeah.
So, which, like I said, was so far from the truth because that would be like, you know, kind of like an idiot move on my part.
Yeah.
This is the person who's signing my checks. This is the person that signed me. Dre introduced him to me. I brought him a group. He listened to the group and he decided to sign me. And and he was really, like I said, he took care of us financially, extremely well. So that would be like a idiotic move. And I'm far from an idiot. You don't bite the hand that's feeding you. I mean, that's just like dumb. So, but, when you got a bunch of jealous people and they're constantly, feeding this, this rumor and constantly, talking about it because they feel like we're getting special treatment, then okay, that must be the case.
Right.
So I remember Sharita bought a new house and, she wanted to hear, she had only heard a certain amount of songs on the album. So, like I said, myself and Sharita, because I was the leader of the group, myself and Sharita, we conducted most of the business. So she said, hey, listen, I need to hear the rest of this album. I need to hear what's going on. I keep hearing from everybody else how good it is. I need to hear it. So I was like, okay, cool. So we scheduled an appointment to meet, and we met at her new house because she was like, well, you can see the new house as well. And I was like, cool, because I want to see it.
Yeah.
And she's showing me the house. Now, mind you, it is a gang of people at the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, she shows me the house. She takes me all to the house, and then we listen to the album. I let her listen to the songs, and the tape deck was in her bedroom, and while we were listening to it, it was, people flowing in throughout, because I think it was a patio door that led out to the swimming pool, and it was a lot of people there. But we were listening to the album.
It wasn't shady, like it looked like you guys went in a room, closed the door, and nobody could get in.
No,
okay.
None of that. None of that. It was a lot of people there.
Right.
But in the process of me letting her listen to the album, when I went to the house, I had sunglasses on. So in the process of me letting her listen to the cassette, I took my sunglasses off because I'm indoors so I can see, and I set my sunglasses down. And I set my sunglasses down, and we finished up our business or whatever. I said goodbye to everybody in the house, including her mother and just everybody that was there. Right. And I left, but I forgot my sunglasses.
Yeah. Okay.
Suge comes over later. I don't know if it was later that day. I don't know if it was later the next day, whatever. Sees my sunglasses, asks her about them, and nothing to hide. So she just goes, "Oh, those are Mark's sunglasses. He was over here. Let me listen to the album. Why are they in your bedroom?" Well, I think I'm assuming that's how the conversation went.
Right.
And so then at that point, I think trust was broken in his mind. Mm-hmm. But I flat out asked him, I said, "Hey, do you think there's something going on between me and your wife?" Mm-hmm. And his words to me were, "No. If I felt that, if I thought that, you would have felt me by now."
Yeah.
Or you'd have felt, something like that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, it really, I said, that's what I really feel like I'm feeling, because, some things it's just not adding up, Mm-hmm. We were supposed to shoot a video on this day. We were supposed to do this on this day. And then the nail that sealed the coffin is we all had a meeting. Myself, Hurt, George, we all had a meeting at Sharita's office and Suge, and we were there to discuss when the album was coming out, why the release date kept getting pushed back, why the video shoot dates kept getting pushed back, and Sharita, like I said, she really fought for her artist, even though Suge was her husband. And she really went off that day. Well, first, Hurt and George were, speaking their mind, and they were like, well, we were waiting and waiting and waiting, and it just got to the point where I think Suge got fed up, and so he was like, Suge got fed up, and he picked up the phone, opened up his flip phone, and called somebody. Called his boys or whatever, and was like, yeah, come on over here or whatever. And so he gets up and he goes and he locks the door to the conference room we're in. And I get up and I go unlock it. And so he gets back up and he goes and locks it again. So I get back up and I go unlock it again. We play this charade for about 4 or 5 times. Because I'm like,
by this time you already know what's going to happen based on what you witnessed with other people, or what you've heard about, right? Like,
I'm seeing where this is going. So I'm like, I'm not getting ready to get locked in no room. So every time he locked the door, I mean, it's kind of comical now. It wasn't comical then, but it's kind of comical now because, like I said, every time he got up and locked the door, I got up and unlocked the door. Yeah. So, but the point being, in all seriousness, Sharitha really snapped off on him that day. She was like, went off. Like, you need to do right by them, and their album was supposed to be out, their video was supposed to be done, and she went like really ballistic off. And he looked dead at me and was like, I see what's going on here. And I was like, what? But she was just passionate about her artist. Right. So, needless to say, I looked at Tyrone and George and I was like, hey, come on, let's go. And we went downstairs. It was valet parking because her office was in Beverly Hills. And when I tell you, as soon as we got our car and pulled out, a low rider pulled in the garage and it was full of guys. Yeah. So we left just in time. And so that's when things just started going downhill, to be honest with you. And
did you have any more conversations with Suge after that night, or were you just like, I need to cut this off? Like, it's too, I don't know if it can be fixed.
No, I had another conversation. I had a confrontation that really was the tip of the iceberg that really sealed everything, and it was like, okay, it's time for me to go. And like I said, I mentioned Kevin Lewis. It really just like turned. Right. And I was at the studio one night, and I was leaving the studio, and Kevin, who is as much of a gangster as Macaulay Culkin, he came at me in the parking lot. And, I told you I had just come out of an accident, right? Right. So I'm in no fighting position. I still have a cast on my leg or whatever. Right. And he came at me really, really foul. And then another guy, and this is one of Suge's boys. He came running out the studio and he tried to steal on me, but I moved my head in time and he didn't connect. And I was walking with a cane. I still walk with a cane to this day. I've had the same cane for 21 years. But luckily that night I didn't have my cane that I always have. Okay. So that is still with me to this day.
Mm.
So this guy snatches my cane and he gives it to Kevin, and Kevin takes the cane and hits me in my leg with it, my broken leg.
Mm.
And so, of course, I instinctively start to react, and then the guy jumps in front of me. He's like, you better not swing back, or whatever. And so I'm looking at Kevin, and I'm like, really, Kevin? I'm like, you a gangster now? And I'm like, our families have known each other for years, and this is what you're on? I said, okay. So, in the words of Kevin Gates, you send one shot at me, I'm going to send like 30 back.
Yeah.
So that was my mentality.
Mm-hmm.
And so Kevin looks at me and says, the other dude goes back in the studio, and then Kevin looks at me and says, consider this a pass. And I'm like, consider this a pass? I was like, you should have never let me leave. I was like, you should have killed me. Whatever you was going to do to me, you should have done to me. Because, like I said, you send one of me, I'm sending 30 back, just like my man Kevin Gates say.
Right.
And without getting into detail, or without implying anybody that I don't want to imply, that was a part of my crew. And I don't speak on this, in a boasting manner. I speak on it in a truthful manner. I dealt with Kevin, and I dealt with him, and it was 10 times worse than him hitting me in my leg with a cane.
Right.
Because I was totally disrespected and was totally uncalled for. So, Suge found out about it, and from what I understand, Suge was upset about it because it happened on Death Row's property. It happened in Can-Am's parking lot. It happened on Death Row's property, or what was considered to be Death Row's property at the time. But in my mind, I'm like, well, what they did to me, they did in the same location. So, because I caught them in the same location.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, I allegedly caught them in the same location. Let me say that.
Right. Okay. Just to be clear.
Yeah, just to be clear, I allegedly caught them in the same location, and I allegedly sent the raft back 30 times worse. I allegedly did that. So, anyway, I understood Suge was upset about it, so I got a call from him, and he said that he wanted to meet me at the office. And so, needless to say, we contemplated. Well, he said, yeah, come to the office because I got a check for you. Right. And at the time, I really needed that check. And so I'm like, so what about the other situation? Are we good with that? And he was like, yeah, we good. And so I get to the office that day, and this was actually right before they went to Vegas. Right before Tupac.
In 96? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
This was right before they were going to Vegas. And so went to the office. Pac was at the office. Everybody was at the office. And of course, like I said, anybody that knows, if you have a meeting with Suge, if it's at one time, it's going to be 6-7 hours later.
Yeah.
And so we finally get into the room, and I got my boys with me, and Suge is like, I don't have no problem with what you did to Kevin because you was only retaliating, but I do got a problem with, you doing it on Death Row's property. And I was like, well, he did what he did to me on Death Row's property. He was like, okay, well, I also got a problem with you all walking away yelling, fuck Death Row. Now, this was a total bold-faced lie.
Yeah.
But a guy named, one of his colleagues, who's no longer with us, who's securities, who's no longer with us, he swore up and down that we said fuck Death Row. And again, why would I say fuck Death Row? That just didn't make sense. I'm like, and I said this to him, I'm like, why would I say fuck Death Row? Death Row is like the famous quote, is a label that pays me. That doesn't even make sense. My beef was not even with Death Row.
Right.
My beef was with Kevin. Okay, so that didn't even make sense. We didn't say that. So he gets the guy on the speakerphone and asks the guy, he said, I just want to make it clear what they said. And the guy says, he repeats it. They walked away saying, fuck Death Row. And I'm like, and I said to the guy through the speaker, I'm like, come on, man, that's not true. And he's like, yeah, that's what I heard. That's what I heard. And I'm like, okay. That's what you heard, but it's not true, and I know it's not true. So Suge hangs up the speaker, starts taking off his Rolex, and he was like, first I didn't have a problem with it. He's saying all this as he's taking off his Rolex. Now I got a problem with it. So he says to my boy, so you riding with Mark? And my boy Dre was with me. And my boy Mo, and Dre says, of course I'm riding with Mark from the cradle to the grave. And so when we first walked in that room, it was like me, Suge, my boys, and like two other people. And by the time I looked behind me, the whole room was dark. Not by light, by that's how many people were in the room. They just filled up the room.
Yeah.
So, without getting into detail, we got out the room the best way we could. And then that was the last draw.
Yeah.
And so, I made up my mind that I was not going back, and Hurt 'em Bad was like, well, I want to stay. And I've never been one to step in somebody's career and say, well, if I'm not staying, you don't stay.
Right.
So he had his private meeting with Suge, and and Suge was like, well, your boys fucked me, and Hurt was like, hey, I ain't had nothing to do with that. And Hurt didn't have anything to do with that. He had nothing to, he was not there during the situation that happened with Kevin or any of that. He didn't have to, he was being totally honest and truthful. He didn't have anything to do with that. And Suge was like, well, those are your boys, and Hurt did not deny us being his boys. He was like, yeah, those are my boys, but I didn't have nothing to do with that. And, I don't want to go back to Chicago. I can't go back to Chicago. I got a family to feed, and, I got other skills, and I want to produce. And he was like, well, I'm going to give you a shot. And then that's when he started letting him work in the rack room.
Okay.
And he would show up every day and work in the rack room. And then the rest of the story, I think you already know.
Right.
But yeah, B-Rezell, and we had a full album. We still have a full. It was probably my best material I ever recorded in my life. It's a shame the world never heard it.
Right.
From what I understand, the song "I Wanna Fuck You" was one of Snoop's favorite songs because he had our album.
Okay.
And
Did you have any guest spots on your album from other people at the label, or was it strictly just you guys?
Oh no, Danny Boy was on the album. The group Fusky was on the album. Well, Stacey Smalley from Fusky was on the album. Let me see. Who else was on it? Well, I wouldn't say Bow Wow was on the album because I was doing a lot of production and I produced Bow Wow when he was like 7 years old. But that was just something totally different. So that wasn't really for the B-Rezell album. But those are about the guest spots that we had. I know I'm missing somebody. That was 21 years ago, but I know I'm missing somebody.